The sky is the color of dirty steel, weighed down by the heavy silence of men awaiting orders. Mud grips their boots like a second skin, every breath thick with the sharp tang of cordite and fear. A whistle shrieks through the gloom, slicing the hush into chaos as men surge from the trenches. Bayonets fixed, hearts pounding, eyes squinting through curtains of freezing rain. Bullets chatter overhead. Explosions chew the earth into smoking craters, flinging soil, shrapnel, and hope in all directions. Someone slips, face first into muck, as the world erupts around him. Across no man's land, barbed wire glistens with morning frost, a razor-toothed barricade daring anyone to cross. Above it all, the ground trembles. At first, barely a shiver. Then, louder, closer, a rumble like thunder trapped in a box. But what if, in this moment, something impossible happened? What if the future crashed into the past, and a steel monster unlike any before appeared on the horizon? It doesn't just arrive, it materializes, parting the curtain of history like a special guest who missed the invitation but owns the place anyway. A modern main battle tank, say the M1 Abrams, is not a machine, it's an event. 60 tons of composite armor crouched atop a gas turbine engine, ready to rocket across the mud faster than any horse, any human, or any sputtering WWI landship ever could. Its main gun, a 120mm smoothbore, looms like the finger of some vengeful god, promising instant regret to anything unlucky enough to enter its crosshairs. Barbed wire turns to confetti under treads thick as tree trunks. Machine gun nests, reduced to abstract art with a flick of the turret. While the tanks of 1917 creaked and wheezed, praying they'd reach the enemy before bursting a gasket, this beast runs on jet fuel and confidence. Inside, thermal sights pierce fog and smoke. Digital targeting computers whisper firing solutions, the crew cocooned in Kevlar and touchscreen displays. If World War I tanks were tin cans bumbling across a field, this is a steel sledgehammer with GPS, spawned at level 100 in a level 1 lobby, ready to rewrite the rules of war before breakfast. Across the blasted wasteland, in trenches just as deep and twice as grim, the defenders brace for the storm. They are Germans, lenses fogged, uniforms caked with mud, but spirits anything but broken. These men are not just soldiers. They're survivors of endless barrages, kings of gallows humor, and masters of making do. Some huddle over steaming mugs of ersatz coffee, swapping jokes about trench rats the size of dachshunds. Others check their trusty Mausers and feed belts of ammunition into the throats of waiting MG-08 machine guns. Their officers, stiff-backed and mustachioed, peer across no man's land, certain that their web of barbed wire, overlapping fields of fire, and monstrous landships make them ready for whatever the British or French might throw next. Artillery is their answer to every problem. Gas masks dangle at the ready. They think they've seen it all, until the ground itself starts to tremble with an unfamiliar mechanical growl. The usual rhythm of the trenches, rifle fire, shouted orders, nervous laughter, falters as a strange vibration ripples through the mud. Periscopes swing left and right. Somewhere down the line, a runner trips and curses, then freezes because even the rats are fleeing. A sharp-eyed machine gunner peers over the sandbags, expecting a clumsy British landship or a desperate infantry charge. Instead, his jaw slackens. Something massive is lumbering through the morning mist, sleek, angular, nothing like the lumbering rhinos they're used to mocking. At first, the soldiers snicker. Another British prototype? Perhaps Churchill finally lost his mind. But the laughter dies as the newcomer shreds barbed wire like it's party streamers, shrugs off a crater as if it's a puddle, and keeps rolling, relentless and shockingly fast. Officers bark in clipped German, demanding explanations, binoculars trembling in their hands. Field telephones crackle with wild rumors. Is it French? British? Something from Berlin we weren't told about? No one knows who should fire first. Some brave soul levels a rifle, more out of habit than hope. The tank's engine bellows, main gun swiveling with inhuman precision. Every heart in the trench thuds. Are they witnessing the future or the end? The first shot is not a rifle crack, but a thunderclap. The tank's main gun speaks, vaporizing a machine gun nest that's menaced this sector for weeks. A spray of splinters and a fountain of dirt mark where defenders once crouched, and suddenly every head in the trench is down. The tank surges forward, treads chewing up barbed wire as if it's dry grass, the ground buckling with every ton of its advance. Bullets ping and ricochet off its armor, sounding for all the world like rain on a cathedral roof. Persistent, pointless, ignored. Soldiers hurl grenades and insults, neither of which seem to do more than annoy the monster. One bold private, out of options and patience, launches himself out of the mud, shovel in hand, and lands a blow on the tank's hull. It echoes like a bad joke. He's rewarded only with a spray of mud as the behemoth pivots, crushing a nearby Mark IV like an empty can. Someone else waves a handkerchief, surrendering in the international language of, "Nope, I'm done." German officers scream for artillery. Within moments, the landscape shudders under a barrage of high explosives, geysers of earth rising around the tank. But the beast shrugs, its armor scorched but unbroken, targeting computers calmly seeking the next threat. A rifleman tries to sneak up, only for the crew HO's thermal sights to catch his heat signature through the smoke. A quick burst from the coaxial machine gun, and he's diving for cover. Gas shells whistle overhead, loosing a sickly yellow fog. Inside, the crew switches on filtration units, their voices clear through modern headsets. The stench of chlorine nothing more than an anecdote for later. Counterattacks form in fits and starts. Platoons surge out, only to be scythed down by the tank's rapid-fire machine guns. A storm of panicked chatter fills the radios of the 21st century as the crew jokes about unlocking the achievement, most overpowered in WWI. Meanwhile, outside, chaos reigns. Horses rear and bolt, field kitchens abandoned, officers waving pistols in the air, men fleeing the way a rumor does, fast in all directions. The tank continues, slow and unstoppable, carving a path that history never meant to exist. In its wake, only stunned silence and shattered trenches remain, the old order broken by the weight of impossible progress. But reality doesn't care for legends. The crew's confidence flickers as they watch the fuel gauge drop like a stone. Jet fuel isn't exactly sold by the barrel in no man U.S. land. Someone tries the radio, hoping for orders, but the only reply is static. No satellites, no command. Just the hollow crackle of a century out of place. Ammunition starts to dwindle. Shell casings pile up on the floor. Each one fired another irreplaceable miracle. Then, a thunderous impact. A lucky artillery round, the kind that makes generals believe in fate, smashes a track. The tank shudders, jerks, and stops. Now, in the sudden silence, it's a stranded colossus, surrounded by trenches bristling with new resolve. The enemy, once panicked, gets clever. Teams race to build barricades, artillery zeroes in, engineers dream up traps. The steel beast, king for a morning, has become a trophy for the taking. When the smoke clears, the battlefield is a jagged quilt of cratered mud and abandoned gear. The tank sits scorched and battered, its engine silent, a monument to power out of time. Soldiers approach warily, some in awe, others with makeshift tools, poking at the charred steel beast that redefined terror in a single morning. News spreads like wildfire. Newspapers across Europe scream of the metal monster that turned barbed wire to powder and shrugged off shells meant to level fortresses. Posters appear in every trench, the tank painted larger than life, a symbol of both fear and possibility. Commanders sketch mad blueprints, desperate to copy the visitor's armor and guns. Engineers stare at its ruined carcass, tracing their fingers over bolts and welds, glimpsing a future just out of reach. The armies, once locked in bloody stalemate, now race for any edge, haunted by the idea that tomorrow's war may not wait 100 years. Morale, fear, and ambition collide in the shadows of the trenches. Some see hope, others a new level of horror. But none can forget the day history jumped the rails. Even in defeat, the tank's legacy ripples through the war, turning imagination into the deadliest weapon of all. History is never done surprising us. Today, we watched a steel giant from the future trample the trenches of the past, rewriting every rule in the book. If only for a day. But what if the next visitor from tomorrow didn't rumble on treads, but soared on wings? Imagine a stealth fighter jet, slicing through the dawn skies over the Somme, hunting biplanes that can barely reach its shadow. Would it reign supreme, or become a legend lost in the fog? Hit subscribe and join us next time, because this is just the beginning of warfare's wildest what if.